ॐ नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ॐ नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ॐ नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। नारायणं नमस्कृत्य नरं चैव नरोत्तमं देवीं सरस्वतीं व्यासं ततो जायमुदीरयेत्। नष्टप्रायेषु अभद्रेषु नित्यं भागवत सेवया भगवतीरुत्तमश्लोके भक्तिर्भवति नैष्टिकी। ॐ अज्ञानतिमिरन्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूप कदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकम्। नमो विष्णुपादाय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्त स्वामीनिति नामिने। नमस्ते सरस्वते देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्यदेशतारिणे। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभो नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद। हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। Hare Krishna. Reading from Śrīmad Bhāgavatam. By His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. We are reading from Canto 4, Chapter 7, the sacrifice performed by Dakṣa. So Dakṣa is back. Shipram bhavati dharmatma. Very quickly he became a dharmatma. Shashvat chantim nigacchati kaunteya pratijanihi name bhaktah pranashyati. And Lord Viṣṇu is pleased. There is a beautiful description of Lord Viṣṇu's appearance. He appeared in the 800 form. Very, very beautiful countenance to look at. And now everybody is offering prayer from text 26 to 47. Devatas offers prayers to Lord Viṣṇu. So these prayers, they consist of praise of the Supreme Lord without sufficient understanding of his glories, right? Because Devatas are the Sakama Bhaktas, most of them. Very rarely, the 5 great Devatas, they are the pure devotees of the Lord. Like Lord Śiva, Lord, Goddess Durga, Ganapati, then Surya, these are the great personalities who have a complete understanding, but otherwise the praise of the Lord without sufficient understanding of his glories. And sometimes they pray in a way that they are blaming or criticizing others also in their prayer. So, we may appear it like that, but then acharyas, they bring out the real meaning of the prayers positively, interpreting these prayers whenever there is necessary. And, this real meaning comes from the commentary of the acharyas. So we come to text 27. Rutvija urchuhu tatvam te vayam anjana rudrashapat karmanyavagrahadhiya bhagavan vidamaha dharmopalakshanamidam trivritvadvarakyam gyatam yadarthamadidaiva madas vyavastha. Translation.
The priest addressed the Lord, saying, O Lord, transcendental to material contamination by the curse offered by Lord Shiva's men, we have become attached to fruitive activities, and thus we are now fallen, and therefore do not know anything about you. On the contrary, we are now involved in the injunctions of the 3 departments of the Vedic knowledge under the plea of executing rituals in the name of yajña. We know that you have made arrangements for distributing the respective shares of the demigods. Purport: the Vedas are known as Traigunya Vishaya Vedaha, Bhagavad Gita 2.45. Those who are serious students of the Vedas are very much attached to the ritualistic ceremonies mentioned in the Vedas, and therefore these Vedavadis cannot understand. The ultimate goal of the Vedas is to understand Lord Krishna. or Viṣṇu. Those who have transcended the qualitative Vedic attractions, however, can understand Krishna and who is never contaminated by the material qualities. Therefore, Lord Viṣṇu is addressed here as Ananyajana, free from material contamination, in Bhagavad Gita 2.42. The crude Vedic scholars have been deprecated by by Krishna as follows: Yam imam pushpitam
यामिमां
va.
पुष्पितां वाच प्रवदन्ति अविपश्चितः वेदवादरतः पार्थ नान्यदस्ति इति वादिनः.
Men of small knowledge are very much attached to the flowery words of the Vedas, and they say that there is nothing more than this. Hare Krishna.
Ritvijaha urchuhu. So Ritvij means the priest, they began to pray that, my dear Lord, you are transcendental to material contamination. And by the curse offered by Lord Shiva's men, we have also become now attached to fruitive activities. Just give me a minute. So we have become attached to the fruitive activities, Vedavadarataha, and thus we have become fallen, and we will not know the real purports of the Vedas. By this sacrifice, you have made arrangements for distributing the regulative shares of the demigods. In the purport, Srila Prabhupada explains, Trigunya Vishaya Veda Nistraigunya Bhavarjuna. The Vedas, they consist of the subject matters pertinent to three modes of material nature. Right. So we know that the Vedas are a vast composition, 1 lakh Vedas are there. Whatever is available now is less than 1% to 3% kind of a thing is available now. And the Vedavadarataha, those who are very much attached to the flowery language of the Vedas, but they completely forget the purpose of the Veda. What is the purpose of the Veda? Vedaischa sarvair ahameva vedyo vedantakrit veda videva chaham. Bhagavad Gita 15.15. Sarvasya chaham riti sannivishto mattah smritir jnanam apohanam cha vedaischa sarvair ahameva vedyo. That from all the Vedas, I am to be known. And the Vedavadaratis, they will perfectly forget this and they will be, fully absorbed in all other things of the Vedas. Srila Prabhupada writes that people with a small knowledge, Yamimam pushpitam vacham, pravadanti avipaschitaha. Pushpitam vacha means very, very flowery language. Vedavadaratah prartha nanyadasti iti vadinah. Kamatmana swargapala janma karma phala pradhan kriya vishesha bhavulam bhoga ishwarya gatim prati. And they will be attached to bhoga and aishwarya. And this is how the priests, they say, we have fallen from our position. Right. The classic example of this is in Krishna Lila, we see that the Dvijas, right, they are performing all the yajña, and the Supreme Lord is standing outside the door and they say, no, we are performing yajña, don't disturb us. We are pleasing the Supreme Brahman. So Lord is standing there, but, they have just forgotten. But the Dvijapatnis, they perfectly surrender to the Supreme Lord, and then later all these Dvijas, they are lamenting. So text 28. So this is a very beautiful prayer, very long prayer it is. Let us see how it recites. So we'll recite this one. Sadasya urchuhu
Tadasya uchu
Sadasya urchuhu
utpatyadhanya sharanaye uruklesha durgenta ugra
utpatti
Utpatti
adhanya klesha durge ugra
vyalan vishte vishayamrugatrushni atmagehori bharah
Lalan
Lalan
vishte
Vishte
atmage
Vishayamrugatrishya
द्वन्द्वान् श्वभ्रे खलमृगभये शोकदावे न्यसार्थः
Dvandva
Dvandva
swapre
Shrabre Kalamrigabhe
Kadavedya Satā
Sartha
पादौ कस्ते शरणकदा याति कदा याति कामोपसृष्टः
आदौ कस्ते यति कामोपसृष्टः.
Yeah, our recitation is also giving some laughter to the Supreme Lord. But anyway, okay. Yes. So translation.
The members of the assembly address the Lord, or O exclusive shelter for all who are situated in troubled life. In this formidable fort of conditional existence, the time element, like a snake, is always looking for an opportunity to strike. This world is full of ditches of so-called distress and happiness, and there are many ferocious animals always ready to attack. The fire of lamentation is always blazing, and the mirage of false happiness is always alluring. But one has no shelter from them. Thus, foolish persons live in the cycle of birth and death, always overburdened in discharging their so called duties, and we do not know when they will accept the shelter of your lotus feet. Purport. Persons who are not in Krishna consciousness are living a very precarious life as described in this verse. But all these circumstantial conditions are due to forgetfulness of Krishna. The Krishna consciousness moment is meant to give relief to all these bewildered and distressed persons. Therefore, it is the greatest relief work for all human society, and the workers thereof are the greatest well-wishers, for they follow in the footsteps of Lord Chaitanya, who is the greatest friend of all living entities.
Very amazing prayer. Sadasya Urchu. So previously the priests were speaking and they remembered the Nandi's curse and how by Nandi's curse they will be completely absorbed in Karma Kanda, forgetting the ultimate reality, that is Vedaischa Sarvair Ahameva Vedya. They glanced at Daksha and the Daksha, they have said, what you have done to us. We came to do perform yajña and we got a curse from Nandi. Now here in this verse, what an amazing verse this is. The Sadasya Urchuhu, the Sadasya they said. This verse is very similar to Śrīmad Bhāgavatam 7.4.28. Okay, very celebrated verse of Bhagavatam. This verse is very similar to that verse. And the number is also very nice. Okay, just search for 7.4.28. Very, very similar verse this is. And you know, this is Nirvairaya Prashantaya Svasutaya Mahatmane Praladaya Yada Duryet Dhanishepi Varorjitam. Right. When Hiranyakashipu teases the great devotee Prahlad, his own son, with a peaceful, sober, and has no enemy, I shall kill Hiranyakashipu immediately, despite benedictions of Brahma. So here, what it means is, here they are saying, oh, exclusive shelter for all those who are situated in the troubled life. How the troubled life? In this formidable ford of conditional existence of the time element, like a snake, the time element is always looking for an opportunity to strike. You know, sometimes you see the snake. You know, if one is not careful, snake is always looking for opportunity to strike. Similarly is the time element. That, you know, there's always padam padam yat vipadam natesham. This world is full of ditches of so-called happiness and distress. So sometimes we are happy and we are elated. Sometimes we are very, very sadly distressed and then down. And these are the, you know, the ups and downs, the roller coaster of the life is going on. There are many ferocious animals always ready to attack. The fire of lamentation is always blazing. And this is, you know, some shoka is so high in people's life. And unfortunately, more one has, there will be more shoka if there is not Krishna consciousness. Of course, we have seen the greatest of the wealthy people like Prahlad, like, you know, Ambarish Maharaj, Yudhishthir Maharaj. They, not for them, neither this is to say that devotee should not become, you know, rich. That is not the point. But the point is, the shoka, lamentation is always ready to attack, you know, always blazing like a fire. The mirage of false happiness is always alluring. And there is always a dangling carrot if you just do like this. But one has no shelter from them. Thus, the foolish person lives in the cycle of samsara, birth and death, and always overburdened in discharging the so-called duties. Right? One is constantly into this or that duty, and we do not know when they will accept the shelter of your lotus feet. So, here in the purport, Srila Prabhupada explains that the persons who are not in Krishna consciousness are living a very precarious life, as described in this verse. But all these circumstantial conditions are due to forgetfulness of Krishna. So, all the problem are due to Krishna bhuliya jeev bhogavancha kare. Because the living entity forgets Krishna, Krishna bhuliya jeev, what happens? Nikatastha maya tara jhapatiya dhare. And maya means all these things will come in the picture. But as soon as they take shelter of Krishna, and take shelter of Krishna means take shelter of the Krishna consciousness movement. These bewildered and the big distressed persons will at once receive the greatest relief. Param Vijayate Sri Krishna Sankirtanam. And therefore we have to follow in the footsteps of Lord Chaitanya, who is the greatest friend of the living entities. There is a beautiful song where he says, Ami Bina Bandhu, without me, who is your real Bandhu? The Lord is called as the greatest friend of the living entity, and especially he has arrived to spread Krishna consciousness mission and chanting the holy names of the Lord. Text 29, Rudra Uvacha. Now we know, right? All the previous thing. Now Lord Shiva is praying. So all these, some of them are the really beautiful prayers, but for the time, we will just not recite every prayer. Tava varada varangrava shisha iha akhilarthe yapi muni bhiya saktai radena arhaniye yad rachita dhiyamma avidya lokapavidham japati naganaye tatvatpar anugrahena. Translation?
Prabhuji, I'll read, I have time. Translation. Lord Shiva said, My dear Lord, my mind and consciousness are always fixed on your lotus feet, which, as the source of all benediction and the fulfillment of all desires, are worshipped by all liberated great sages, because your lotus feet are worthy of worship. With my mind fixed on your lotus feet, I am no longer disturbed by persons who blaspheme me, claiming that my activities are not purified. I do not mind their accusations, and I excuse them out of compassion, just as you exhibit compassion towards all living entities. Purport. Lord Shiva expresses herein his regret at having been angry and having disturbed the sacrificial activities of Dakṣa. King Dakṣa had insulted him in many ways, and thus he had become angry and had frustrated the entire sacrificial ceremony. Later, when he was pleased, the yajña performances were reinstituted, and therefore he regretted his activities. Now, he says that because his mind is fixed on the lotus feet of the Supreme Lord, Viṣṇu, he is no longer disturbed by the ordinary critics of his way of life. From this statement by Lord Shiva, it is understood that as long as one is on the material platform, one is affected by three modes of material nature. As soon as one is in Krishna consciousness, however, one is no longer affected by such material activities. One should therefore always be fixed in Krishna consciousness, busy in the transcendental loving service of the Lord. It is guaranteed that such a devotee will never be affected by the actions and reactions of the three modes of material nature. This fact is also corroborated in Bhagavad Gita. Anyone who is fixed in the transcendental service of the Lord has surpassed all the material qualities and is situated in the status of Brahman realization, in which one is not afflicted by hankering for material objects. The recommendation of the Śrīmad Bhāgavatam is that one should always be Krishna conscious and should never forget his transcendental relationship with the Lord. This program has to be followed strictly by everyone. From the statement of Lord Shiva, it is understood that he was always in Krishna consciousness, and thus he remained free from material affliction. The only remedy, therefore, is to continue Krishna consciousness rigidly in order to get out of the contamination of the material modes. Hare Krishna. Thank you.
So the Rudra, Lord Shiva says, my mind and consciousness are always fixed at your lotus feet. Why? Because they are the source of all benedictions, one. And second is, they fulfill all one's desire. They are worshipped by all great liberated sages. And because your lotus feet are, therefore they are worthy of real worship. With my fixed mind, I am no longer disturbed by the person who blasphemes me, and thus I excuse them out of compassion, just as you exhibit compassion to other living entities. So, Rudra here is looking at Dakṣa, and he is already forgiven. And he is, in the purport, Srila Prabhupada explains, Lord Śiva is expressing his regret for destroying the yajña. So, Lord Śiva was angry because he was insulted by Dakṣa in many, many ways. And then there is a loss of Satī. And the whole thing made Lord Śiva very angry. But out of the anger, he destroyed the yajña, and later now he is regretting his own activities. Right. In the purport, Srila Prabhupada further explains that from the statement of Lord Śiva, one can understand as long as one is in Krishna consciousness, he will remain transcendental to three modes of material nature. Right. So, as long as and as soon as we are in Krishna consciousness, one is not disturbed by the material activities. One should therefore be always fixed in Krishna consciousness, busy in the transcendental loving service of the Supreme Lord. And then it is guaranteed that one will not become victim of the three modes of material nature. Bhagavad Gita confirms this. Brahma bhuta prasannatma na shochati na kangshati sarveshu bhuteshu mad bhaktim labhate param. So, Brahma bhuta prasannatma, such a personality, he is free from hankering and lamentation. Na shochati na kangshati. And therefore, Śrīmad Bhāgavatam recommends one should always be fixed in Krishna consciousness and should never forget. So, mark this, let us mark this word, should never forget his transcendental relationship with the Lord, that is the Sambandha Gyan. See, what happens is, when we are under emotions, generally our, the Jnana is covered over. The emotions, what they do is, when we are angry, that sometimes, we may become angry with the child and we want to tightly slap the child. The child has spit on somebody. Sometimes, the child means bigger child or something like that. But, one should be aware that, one should be aware that, you cannot just beat the child like that or, do something like, because this is the Sambandha Gyan. So, to the degree we are aware of the Sambandha Gyan, to that degree, one will be very easily able to control the three modes of, one will be able to easily transcend the three modes of material nature and control one's emotions. And Lord Śiva is the example. He is always in Krishna consciousness, and therefore he always remains free from material afflictions. Although, one odd incidents here and there, and, which is again as a pastime of Lord Śiva, when we see Lord Shiva's personality. But this is the prerogative of devotional service, that devotional service can actually keep us transcendental to three modes of material nature. Text 30. So here it is, not forgetting the Sambandha Gyan, Jivera Svarupa hai, Krishnera Nityadas. Text 30. Bhruguruvacha. Now Bhrugu, his mustache was taken out, then mustache was given back, and a lot of things happened with Bhrugu also, Bhrugu Muni also. Now he is offering his prayer. Yanmaya gahanaya aparutatma bodha brahmadaya tanubhritastamasi swapantah natman shritantava vadanti adunapi tattvam soyam prasidatu bhavan pranatatma bandhu. Translation.
Sri Bhrigu said, My dear Lord, all living entities, beginning from the highest, namely Lord Brahma, down to the ordinary ant, are under the influence of the insurmountable spell of illusory energy. And thus, they are ignorant of their constitutional position. Everyone believes in the concept of the body, and all are thus submerged in the darkness of illusion. They are actually unable to understand how you live in every living entity as the super soul, nor can they understand your absolute position. But you are the eternal friend and protector of all surrendered souls. Therefore, Please be kind toward us and forgive all our offenses. Purport. Bhrigu Muni was conscious of the scandalous behavior exhibited by each and every one of them, including Brahma and Lord Shiva, in the sacrificial ceremony of Dakṣa. By mentioning Brahma, the chief of all living entities within the material world, he wanted to state that everyone, including also Brahma and Lord Shiva, is under the concept of the body and under the spell of material energy, all but Viṣṇu. That is the version of Bhrigu. As long as one is under the concept of the body as self, it is very difficult to understand the super soul or the supreme personality of Godhead. Conscious that he was not greater than Brahma, Bhrigu included himself in the list of offenders. Ignorant personalities or conditioned souls have no chance but to accept their precarious condition under material nature. The only remedy is to surrender to Viṣṇu and to always pray to be excused. One should depend only on the causeless mercy of the Lord for deliverance and not even slightly on one's own strength. That is a perfect position of Krishna conscious person. The Lord is everyone's friend, but he is especially friendly to the surrendered soul. The simple process, therefore, is that a conditioned soul should remain surrendered to the Lord, and the Lord will give him all protection to keep him out of the clutches of material contamination. Thank you, Prabhu.
So now Bhrigu, he began to pray. And Bhrigu Muni is praying here, my dear Lord, please forgive us for our scandalous behavior. Prabhupada writes in the purport. Even personalities like Brahma, Shiva, myself, we are covered by the modes of material nature and cannot understand the truth. The truth is that you are the super soul and you have the absolute position. Please forgive all our offenses. In the purport, Srila Prabhupada explains that Bhrigu was conscious of the scandalous behavior of every one of them, including Brahma and Lord Shiva. So, of course, each one's behavior was justified in their own way, but it resulted in frustration of the yajña. This is very important, right? What it led to. Later in Mahabharata, we'll see Mahabharata, the same question is being asked. And Bhishma is saying, what is my fault, Krishna? When Krishna comes as a Shantidut. I was just following my dharma. And Krishna says, my dear Bhishma, you were following your dharma, but what was the conclusion? Great Samratni, great personality, Draupadi was disrobed. What is it? Attempted to be disrobed. What kind of dharma you are following? And there, in this, our Gil Tiwari's Mahabharata, they have covered this instance beautifully. Some part they have really taken up very beautifully. There the dialogue comes says, द्वारपाल जब पूरा भवन जल रहा है तो द्वारपाल सिर्फ अपने द्वार की रक्षा नहीं कर सकता, राइट? द्वारपाल के नॉट माय ड्यूटी इज आई एम अ गेट कीपर, आई विल कीप द गेट, let the palace be on fire. So when a personality like Draupadi was heinously insulted like this, you cannot just say that, oh, I am taking care of my dharma. So here Lord Brahma is also accused by Bhrigu, and Bhrigu is saying Brahma should have come, Brahma should have intervened in the entire happening. Brahma should have little bit intervened the whole thing. But he says that, my dear Lord, every one of us is under the three modes of material nature except you, except Lord Viṣṇu. As long as one is under the concept of the body as the self, it is very difficult to understand super soul, right? And therefore the conditioned soul, Srila Prabhupada writes, have no choice but to accept their precarious condition in the material nature. The precarious condition, which is very beautifully explained by the Sadasya in their prayer, text 28. And thus, only remedy is always surrender to Lord Viṣṇu and always pray that they will be excused and protected. Right. On one's own strength, one cannot surpass this Bhavasagar. Ekaki amar nahi paye bala. Harinama Sankirtan. It is very difficult. But when one surrenders to the Supreme Lord, the Lord will give him all protection and keep him out of the clutches of material existence. Correct? So this is called as Sharanagati. Shadavidha, Sharanagati. We will conclude here and continue tomorrow. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Gaura Bhakta Vrinda ki jai. Thank you, Prabhupada. Thank you, everyone. Hare
Thank you,
Krishna.
Prabhupada.
Thank you,
One
Prabhupada.
question.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Thank you.
Hare Krishna.
One question.
Yeah, please.
So you said the three modes of material nature. What are those three modes of material nature?
Three modes of material nature are Sattvagun, Rajogun, and Tamogun. So Bhagavad Gita very elaborately explains the three modes of material nature. Chapter 14, chapter 17, parts of chapter 18.
And
So
Prabhuji, you also mentioned in the initial conversation that about this Lord Ganpati, Durga. I didn't get that part. Can you say that again?
yeah, there is a difference between Bhagavan and Devata, right? And Devatas, they are not all the Devatas, but some of the Devatas, they are the purest and greatest devotees of the Supreme Lord. So Lord Shiva is a great devotee of the Supreme Lord, Vaishnavanam Yatha Shambhu. Similarly, Durga Devi, she is a great devotee of the Supreme Lord. And Ganapati is a great devotee of Lord Narasimhadev, therefore is called as Vignaharta. And then the Surya Dev is a great devotee of the Supreme Lord. So these select devatas, they are pure devotees of the Lord. And other devatas, they are also devotees, but they have some desires to be fulfilled, like Indra, Chandra, Varuna, Vayu. They have some, the material ambitions to be fulfilled. So all this very beautifully explained by Brahmaji's prayers called as Brahma Samhita. So for each one of them, there is a beautiful prayer. Like Lord Shiva, there is a prayer, Kshiram Yatha Dadi Vikara Vishesha Yogat. And then there is Durga Devi, there is a prayer, Srishti Sthiti Pralaya Sadhana Shakti Rekha. Chayeva Yasya Bhuvanani Bibharti Durga. Similarly, there is prayer for, the position. The prayer explains the position of these great devatas with respect to the Supreme Lord. Right.
Thank you, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna. Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.